Maya woke up to the shrill sound of her alarm, the morning light filtering weakly through her thin curtains. She rubbed her eyes and let out a small sigh. College had never been easy, but lately, it seemed heavier than usual. Her books were stacked haphazardly on the desk, and the small room she rented barely had space to move. She had been studying late into the night, sometimes forgetting to eat properly, and her part-time job left her tired before the sun even rose. But today, like every day, she had to keep going. She quickly dressed in her worn jeans and a simple sweater, pulling her hair into a messy ponytail. Her backpack, patched in a few places, was slung over one shoulder, carrying notebooks, pens, and a small lunch she had managed to prepare the night before. Maya didn't have much, but she made sure she had everything she needed to get through the day. As she stepped outside, the crisp morning air brushed against her face. The streets were already bustling with people, some heading to offices, others waiting for buses, and children rushing to school with their small bags bouncing on their backs. Maya joined the crowd at the bus stop, glancing at her watch anxiously. She couldn't afford to miss this bus. Being late meant missing the first lecture, and missing the lecture meant falling behind. The bus approached with a familiar screech of brakes and the hum of the engine. Maya moved closer, clutching her bag tightly, and stepped inside. The bus was crowded, as usual, but she was lucky to find a single empty seat near the window. Relief washed over her as she sank into it. She placed her bag on her lap, resting her head against the cool glass. Outside, the world was moving fast, people walking in a hurry, cars honking, street vendors shouting. Inside the bus, everything felt a little slower, a little quieter. Maya tried to steal a few moments of calm before the day's responsibilities swallowed her whole. She glanced around the bus, noticing tired faces, students like her, and workers who seemed lost in thought. Everyone seemed to have their own story, their own struggles hidden behind polite smiles and quiet expressions. Maya couldn't help but feel a sense of connection with these strangers. Maybe they were all carrying little burdens, just like her. The bus jolted slightly as it turned a corner, and Maya held onto the edge of her seat. She looked out of the window, trying to focus on the sunlight glinting off the buildings, the trees swaying gently in the breeze, anything to distract herself from the list of assignments waiting for her at college. Her thoughts wandered to the essay she had stayed up all night writing, the project she had to complete by the end of the week, and the test she barely felt prepared for. Her stomach knotted with anxiety. Some days, the pressure felt too heavy, but she reminded herself that she had survived worse mornings before. Suddenly, the bus door opened with a hiss, and an elderly lady stepped in slowly, holding onto her cane for support. Her white hair was neatly tied back, and her eyes carried the softness and wisdom that only age could bring. She scanned the bus with a hesitant expression, looking for a seat. Maya noticed the lady's difficulty and instinctively stood up, her heart nudging her to act. "Please, take my seat," Maya said gently, offering the chair. The old woman's eyes widened in surprise, and then a warm smile spread across her face. "Thank you, dear," she said softly, her voice calm and kind. She lowered herself carefully into the seat, gripping her cane in one hand and adjusting her shawl with the other. Maya stood beside her, holding onto the railing, feeling a strange mix of fatigue and satisfaction. The bus lurched forward again, and Maya balanced herself while watching the old lady settle in. The lady's hands were delicate, her fingers slightly trembling, and Maya felt a pang of empathy. She remembered her own grandmother, long gone, and the countless mornings spent sitting by her side, listening to stories that seemed small then but now felt like treasures. A small gesture, like giving up a seat, seemed almost meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but the gratitude in the lady's eyes made Maya realize it mattered. As the bus continued on its route, Maya felt a quiet sense of pride. It was a fleeting moment, yet it made her day a little lighter. She thought about the struggles she faced every morning, the long walks, the heavy textbooks, the worries about the future, but for this short ride, she had made a choice that felt good. She didn't know the lady, and she didn't expect anything in return. She only knew that kindness, even in small doses, had a way of making the world a little better. Maya held onto the railing, letting the sunlight fall on her face, and for the first time that morning, she felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe today would not be as hard as she imagined. Maybe small actions could create small miracles. She didn't know it yet, but this simple act of giving up her seat would set into motion a series of events that could change her life forever. The bus hummed steadily along the busy streets, carrying Maya and the old lady through the city. Outside, life went on as usual, but inside, in that small moment of shared humanity, something quiet but powerful was unfolding. Maya didn't realize it yet, but this morning, a simple act of kindness had quietly planted the seed for a story that would be remembered for a lifetime. The bus moved slowly through the busy city streets, the morning sun reflecting off the glass buildings. Maya held onto the railing, trying to balance herself as the vehicle swayed with each turn. She watched people on the sidewalks rushing to work or school, their faces a mix of determination, worry, and quiet routines. For a moment, she felt like just another face in the crowd, small, unnoticed, struggling to keep up. The old lady in the seat she had given up noticed Maya standing nearby. "You're very kind, young lady," she said softly, her voice carrying a warmth that made Maya look down shyly. "Not many people offer their seat these days." Maya gave a small smile. "It's nothing," she replied. Her voice sounded quieter than she intended, almost like she was apologizing for something that wasn't wrong. She adjusted her grip on the railing, glancing out the window at the passing trees and shops. She had always been taught to be polite, to help when she could, but sometimes she wondered if her small gestures even mattered in the world. The old lady chuckled lightly, as if reading her thoughts. "It matters more than you know," she said. "Even a little kindness can change someone's day, sometimes, it can even change a life." Her eyes sparkled with a gentle light, and Maya felt a strange warmth in her chest. She wasn't sure why, but the woman's words lingered, making her think about all the mornings she had felt invisible, unnoticed, and overwhelmed. The bus stopped briefly at a corner, and a few passengers got off. Maya leaned slightly forward, watching them leave, feeling a mix of relief and fatigue. Her mind wandered back to her college life, her part-time job at the small cafe near her campus, the endless assignments, and the anxiety of exams approaching too quickly. Some mornings felt impossible, like she was climbing a mountain with no end in sight. But today, standing there, something felt different. The old lady's gratitude reminded her that small acts could shine even in the darkest moments. "Are you studying, dear?" the lady asked suddenly, her voice gentle but curious. Maya blinked and shook her head. "Not right now," she said. "I was just thinking about, well, everything, I guess." She laughed softly, a sound mixed with nerves and tiredness. "Sometimes life just feels heavy." The old lady nodded, her face understanding. "I know that feeling well. But life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it." She paused, then added, "Sometimes, the people we meet for just a moment can bring the biggest surprises." Maya looked at her, intrigued. There was something in the lady's eyes, a quiet confidence, a sense of knowing that Maya didn't understand yet. She wanted to ask what she meant, but the bus lurched again, and she steadied herself. She didn't need to ask. Some things, she realized, were revealed in their own time. As the bus continued, Maya noticed a young man sitting a few rows away. He seemed out of place among the usual morning crowd. His clothes were neat, a little more expensive than most passengers, and he watched the bus quietly, observing rather than being swept along with the chaos. Maya felt his gaze briefly meet hers, though it quickly shifted away. She returned to standing near the old lady, unsure why she noticed him so much. There was something calm about him, a quiet presence that contrasted sharply with the noisy bus. The lady leaned slightly forward, speaking in a voice just above a whisper. "You know, young lady, not everyone notices the little struggles in others. But you did. That shows a heart that is careful and true." Maya felt her cheeks warm, unsure whether to feel proud or embarrassed. She wasn't used to compliments, especially from strangers. Before she could respond, the bus slowed down at another stop. A few people boarded, including a man carrying a small briefcase and wearing a serious expression. He muttered a polite "excuse me" as he squeezed past Maya, and she stepped back to let him through. The bus jolted again, and she caught herself on the railing, thinking about how easily life could push someone off balance, literally and figuratively. "You're stronger than you think," the lady said softly, noticing the small sigh Maya let out. "Even when life feels heavy, even when it seems no one notices, your actions, they matter." Maya looked at her, touched by the sincerity in the old lady's words. She didn't know why, but she felt lighter, as if a small weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Maybe it was the recognition, maybe it was just the comfort of being seen. For the first time that morning, she allowed herself to feel a little hope, a little pause from the constant worry of surviving each day. The bus turned another corner, carrying them through the city, and Maya felt a subtle shift inside herself. The small act of giving up her seat had started a chain of thoughts she hadn't expected. Maybe kindness wasn't just about helping others, it was also about recognizing one's own strength, one's own ability to make a difference, no matter how small. As the bus hummed steadily along, Maya tightened her grip on the railing, standing taller, feeling a quiet courage grow inside her. She didn't yet know what lay ahead that day, or what surprises life had in store. But for the moment, she felt a spark, a tiny, powerful reminder that even small actions could matter in ways she could never imagine. And so, the bus continued, carrying Maya, the old lady, and the quiet energy of possibilities yet to come, weaving them into a story that was only just beginning. The bus continued its slow journey through the crowded city streets. Maya still stood near the old lady, holding onto the railing, her mind wandering in quiet thought. She kept stealing glances at the woman, who now seemed completely at ease, hands folded neatly over her lap. There was a calmness in her face, a quiet dignity that Maya found soothing. For a moment, Maya allowed herself to relax, feeling the hum of the bus beneath her and the gentle rhythm of the city outside. The chatter of passengers and the occasional laughter of children blended with the sound of tires rolling over the asphalt. It was ordinary, yet in this ordinary moment, Maya felt something extraordinary, an awareness of how small actions could ripple in ways no one could see. The old lady cleared her throat softly. "You know, young lady, not everyone notices the struggles of others. Many people are too busy with their own lives to see beyond themselves." Maya nodded, listening intently. She had often felt invisible, lost in the crowd, her efforts unnoticed. Her part-time work, her late nights studying, her sacrifices. It sometimes felt like no one cared. And yet, here she was, standing beside someone who truly saw her. Maya felt a warmth rise in her chest. I don't know, she said quietly, almost to herself. I try to help when I can. But sometimes, it feels like it doesn't matter at all. The lady's eyes softened. That's the trick, she said, her voice gentle and wise. Sometimes it matters immediately, sometimes it matters years later. But every kind act leaves a mark on you, on others, and sometimes in ways you cannot even imagine. Maya thought about her college life, about the mornings she had trudged through crowded streets, tired and hungry, with only a small hope that she could survive the day. How many times had she helped someone with a notebook, or shared a small smile with a stranger, or held a door open for someone in a rush? Those acts had always felt small, insignificant. But hearing the lady speak made her realize that even the smallest gesture carried meaning. The bus slowed at the next stop, letting a few passengers off. A young woman with a bright backpack and earbuds stepped down, waving goodbye to someone waiting outside. The bus jolted, and Maya adjusted her hold on the railing, steadying herself. She looked back at the old lady, noticing the delicate lines on her hands, the careful way she held her cane, and the softness in her smile. Would you like some water? Maya asked suddenly, remembering the small bottle she carried in her bag. She reached down and offered it to the lady, who shook her head gently. No, thank you, dear. But that's very thoughtful of you. The words made Maya smile. It wasn't a big deal, just a small gesture, but the lady's appreciation made it feel important. In that moment, Maya realized that kindness didn't have to be grand or complicated. It could be simple, quiet, and still meaningful. Across the aisle, the young man Maya had noticed earlier shifted slightly in his seat, his eyes glancing at her again. There was curiosity in his gaze, but also something else: respect, perhaps, or admiration. Maya quickly looked away, pretending not to notice. She wasn't used to drawing attention, especially from someone who seemed so composed and confident. But even from afar, she felt the subtle impact of being acknowledged, of her small act of kindness being noticed without her asking for it. The old lady spoke again, this time softly enough that only Maya could hear. You remind me of my granddaughter, she said. She had a heart just like yours. Always helping, always thinking of others. Maya's heart gave a tiny jump. The lady's words felt personal, almost like a quiet blessing. For the rest of the ride, Maya stood beside her, feeling a mix of fatigue and contentment. Each bump in the road, each jolt of the bus, seemed less bothersome. Her mind wandered to the idea of life as a series of moments, small but meaningful, each one carrying the potential to make a difference. The act of giving up her seat had been spontaneous, almost instinctive, but now she could see it as part of a larger pattern, a chain of small gestures that might ripple out further than she could imagine. By the time the bus reached the next stop, Maya noticed the young man had stood up as well, as if ready to get off. Their eyes met briefly, and he gave a small, polite nod. Maya felt a strange flutter in her chest. There was something in his demeanor that hinted at stories untold, at experiences she could only guess at. And yet, in that brief interaction, she felt a quiet connection, a recognition that kindness did not go unnoticed, and that even strangers could sense it. The bus continued on, weaving through the city streets, carrying its passengers toward their separate destinations. Maya held onto the railing, a gentle smile playing on her lips. She didn't know what lay ahead that day, or how her small gesture might affect the world around her, but for the first time that morning, she felt a sense of hope. She felt seen. She felt important. And for Maya, that was enough for now. The bus hummed along steadily, and with every turn, every stop, every small gesture, a story was quietly unfolding. A story that would continue to grow, connecting lives in ways no one could have predicted. And it all began with something as simple as offering a seat to an old lady, an act so small, yet so powerful in its meaning. The bus rattled along the winding streets, carrying Maya, the old lady, and a crowd of sleepy, busy commuters. Maya had stopped worrying about the little things, letting the rhythm of the bus soothe her thoughts. Her heart still held a quiet warmth from the old lady's gratitude. It felt strange to think that a simple act, giving up a seat, could create such a comforting sense of purpose. Across the aisle, the young man she had noticed earlier remained seated. He had an air of calm about him, as if the bustling city and the crowded bus did not disturb his thoughts. He wore a simple watch, neatly pressed clothes, and polished shoes, and yet, there was something about him that seemed different from the others on the bus. He wasn't loud or flashy, but his eyes, quiet, attentive, and observant, seemed to take in everything. For a few minutes, Maya ignored him, focusing instead on the passing scenery outside the window. The streets were lined with small shops opening their shutters, the scent of fresh bread drifting faintly into the air. Children hurried along, waving to their parents, school bags bouncing with each step. The city moved fast, but for Maya, the world outside the bus window felt like a gentle reminder that life went on, no matter how tired or overwhelmed she felt. Then, almost unexpectedly, the young man spoke. His voice was calm, polite, and carried a quiet confidence. "That was a very kind thing you did back there," he said, nodding slightly toward the old lady. Maya blinked, surprised. She hadn't realized anyone had noticed. "Oh, it was nothing," she replied softly, her cheeks warming. "I just wanted to help." She felt shy under his gaze, unsure how to respond. Most people didn't comment on small gestures like hers, and yet here was someone recognizing it. The young man smiled faintly. "Not many people would think to do that." "I noticed." He paused, as if considering his next words carefully. "It's rare to see someone so thoughtful in such a busy, crowded place." Maya felt a strange flutter of pride mixed with embarrassment. She wasn't used to compliments, especially from strangers. "Thank you," she whispered, looking down at her shoes. She felt as though she had been holding her breath, and now it had been released. The old lady glanced between them, a knowing smile on her face. "See," she said softly, as if sharing a secret. "Kindness is always noticed, even when you least expect it." Maya glanced at the lady and then back at the young man. She had 1,000 questions but didn't know where to start. Who was he? Why was he noticing her? Something about his presence felt different, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. The bus slowed at the next stop. A few passengers got off, leaving a little more space inside. The young man shifted slightly in his seat, giving Maya a clearer view of him. He looked down at his hands for a moment, then back at her. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said carefully, "but I wanted to say that small acts like yours, they matter more than we sometimes realize." Maya shook her head, still smiling shyly. I just did what seemed right," she said. "I didn't think it would matter to anyone." He nodded. "That's the thing about kindness. It doesn't always make sense in the moment, but its effects can reach far beyond what we see." His voice carried a gentle authority, and Maya felt herself listening closely, drawn in by his words. For the rest of the ride, they exchanged small smiles and quiet glances. She noticed subtle details: the way he adjusted his watch, the calm confidence in his posture, the attentive way he seemed to notice the people around him. There was a quiet energy about him, something that made Maya feel both curious and cautious. She wanted to know more about him, yet part of her wondered if it was better to simply enjoy the moment without asking questions. The old lady, sitting nearby, seemed to notice the unspoken connection forming. She smiled quietly to herself, the lines of her face softening with the memory of her own grandson. He had always been observant, thoughtful, and respectful. Maya, unaware of this connection, continued to stand, feeling a little lighter than before. The small act of giving up her seat had already begun to create ripples, first in the old lady, and now, it seemed, in the young man as well. As the bus moved forward, Maya felt a quiet anticipation she couldn't explain. Something about this encounter felt significant, as if her simple gesture had started a chain of events that could change her life in ways she could not yet imagine. The young man's polite attention, the old lady's gentle wisdom, and the crowded, noisy bus, it all felt like a small world filled with possibilities. Maya held onto the railing, glancing out the window again, the city passing by in a blur of colors and shapes. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she felt ready to face it. She had discovered something small yet powerful, that kindness, even in its quietest form, could open doors, touch hearts, and perhaps, change a life forever. And so, the bus hummed along, carrying Maya, the old lady, and the young man through the city streets, weaving together a story of unexpected connections, quiet courage, and the subtle power of small gestures. The bus rolled slowly through the busy streets, its engine humming a familiar rhythm. Maya's thoughts were scattered between her college assignments, her part-time job, and the small but meaningful interaction she had shared with the old lady. Yet, her mind kept drifting to the young man who had noticed her kindness. There was something about him, something calm, careful, and observant that made her curious, though she didn't yet understand why. When the bus reached Maya's stop, she tightened her grip on the strap of her bag. She took a deep breath, ready to step off into the bright morning sun, ready to face another long day of study and work. The old lady looked up at her and smiled. "Thank you again, dear. Remember, every small act of kindness matters," she said gently. Maya nodded, smiling back. "I will. Thank you for your words. They really helped." She stepped forward, her worn shoes making soft tapping sounds against the metal steps. Just as she reached the pavement, she felt someone gently call her name. "Wait." The voice was calm but insistent. Maya turned and saw the young man from the bus jogging lightly to catch up with her. His presence startled her slightly. She wasn't used to strangers approaching her so directly. "Hi," he said politely, slightly out of breath. "I hope I'm not intruding, but my grandmother told me what you did on the bus." Maya froze for a moment, trying to process his words. "My grandmother?" she asked quietly, confused. He nodded with a soft smile. "Yes. She mentioned how kind you were. That was very thoughtful of you, giving her your seat." Maya's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't realized the old lady was related to him, and the connection suddenly made her small gesture feel even more significant. Maya felt shy. "Oh. I just wanted to help. I didn't think it was anything special," she said softly, her voice almost lost in the morning wind. He shook his head gently. "It is special. Kindness like yours isn't common. My grandmother told me stories of people who help others without expecting anything in return, and you reminded her of those people. He paused, then added carefully, I wanted to meet you and thank you properly. Maya blinked, unsure what to say. She had always believed that small gestures went unnoticed, that no one cared enough to remember them. And yet here was someone connected to the very person she had helped taking the time to acknowledge her. A quiet sense of pride and nervous excitement rose in her chest. Thank you, she whispered finally, finding her voice. I didn't think anyone would notice. He smiled warmly. I noticed. And my grandmother noticed too. Sometimes, the smallest things have the biggest impact. He looked around for a moment, as if searching for the right words, then continued. Actually, I wanted to ask if you would consider meeting my grandmother sometime. She would love to see you again, even briefly. Maya hesitated, thinking about her busy schedule, the classes, the work, and the never-ending responsibilities. Yet something in his gentle tone, in the sincerity of his eyes, made her pause. Perhaps this meeting wasn't just casual, it felt like a bridge to something meaningful, something that went beyond the everyday struggles of her life. I think I could, she said softly. I would like that. He nodded, his smile widening slightly. Great. I think she'll be very happy to see you. And I also want to tell you that my grandmother always believes that good people deserve opportunities. She thinks people like you should be recognized for their kindness and dedication. Maya's heart fluttered. She had never expected a small act of helping someone on a crowded bus to lead to recognition, let alone an opportunity that might change her life. Her thoughts raced, what kind of opportunity? Why her? And yet, she felt a strange, hopeful excitement. Maybe this was more than coincidence. Maybe it was a reminder that life could reward even the smallest acts of goodness. I'm not sure what to say, she murmured, her voice a mix of awe and shyness. You don't have to say anything, he replied softly. Just knowing that you care enough to act kindly is enough. The rest, well, we can take one step at a time. He offered his hand politely. I'm Ryan, by the way. My grandmother's grandson. Maya hesitated, then shook his hand, feeling a quiet connection she couldn't yet explain. I'm Maya, she said. It's nice to meet you. Ryan nodded. It's nice to meet you too. And Maya, thank you, truly. What you did mattered more than you know. As they stood on the sidewalk, the city moving around them in its usual busy rhythm, Maya realized that this ordinary morning had suddenly shifted into something extraordinary. A small gesture of kindness, a brief moment of consideration for someone else, had unexpectedly connected her to people who saw and appreciated her heart. And for the first time in a long while, she felt that perhaps life could surprise her in the most beautiful ways. The world was busy, noisy, and often overwhelming, but in that moment, standing beside Ryan and remembering the old lady's gratitude, Maya felt hope, possibility, and the quiet power of her own simple actions. Maya felt her heart still racing from the encounter with Ryan. She walked toward college, her backpack feeling lighter than usual. The world around her, the busy streets, the honking cars, the chatter of people seemed different somehow. It was as if the small act of giving up her seat on the bus had opened a door she hadn't even known existed. Later that day, after finishing her morning classes, Maya returned home, her mind full of questions. She couldn't stop thinking about Ryan's words, the suggestion that her small gesture of kindness might matter in ways she couldn't yet see. She sat at her small desk, pushing aside her notebooks, and wondered how her life might be changing without her realizing it. The next morning, a call came. It was Ryan. "Hi, Maya. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to ask if you could come meet my grandmother at her house. She would love to see you again, and she has something she wants to discuss with you." Maya hesitated. Her part-time job, her assignments, and the constant rush of life usually left little room for anything unexpected. But something in Ryan's tone made her feel calm, safe, and curious all at once. I can come," she said softly. When Maya arrived at the house, she felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. The house was warm, welcoming, and full of sunlight, with flowers in small pots on the windowsill. The old lady greeted her with a gentle smile. "Maya, it's wonderful to see you again," she said warmly. "Please, come in." Maya stepped inside, feeling a little shy. Ryan stood nearby, his hands in his pockets, watching with a polite smile. "Thank you for coming, Maya," he said. "I think this will be a good meeting." The old lady led Maya to a small sitting area with comfortable chairs. "Maya," she began, her voice soft and steady, "I have watched you with great admiration. Your kindness, your honesty, your willingness to help others without expecting anything in return, these are qualities that are rare. And qualities that deserve to be nurtured." Maya listened, her heart pounding. She hadn't expected anything like this. She had only given up a seat, and yet, the old lady spoke as if she had known Maya's entire character, her struggles, and her dreams. "I want to help you, Maya," the lady continued. "I believe you have great potential, but I also know life has not always made it easy for you. My grandson and I run a scholarship program for students who show dedication and kindness, and I want you to be part of it." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She had dreamed of opportunities like this but had never imagined them reaching her through such a simple moment of compassion. I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "You don't need to say anything," Ryan said softly. "You just need to accept that sometimes, life notices the small things, and it rewards them in ways we cannot predict." Maya looked at the old lady and then at Ryan. The warmth in their eyes made her feel safe, respected, and appreciated. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that the struggles she had faced were not invisible, that her efforts mattered, and that the world could respond with kindness in return. The old lady smiled at her. "Maya, this scholarship will cover your tuition, your books, and some living expenses. We want to give you the freedom to focus on your studies, to pursue your dreams without the constant worry that has been part of your life." Maya felt her chest tighten. The weight of her worries, the sleepless nights, the endless part-time work, it all seemed to lift slightly. I can't believe this," she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Ryan nodded, his expression calm but kind. "You earned it, Maya. Not just because of what you did on the bus, but because of the person you are. You have heart, courage, and integrity. Those things matter more than anything else." Maya sat there, trying to absorb it all. She thought about her life, the long mornings, the struggles, the feeling of being invisible. And now, in this sunlit room, she felt seen, valued, and hopeful. The old lady reached out, holding Maya's hand briefly. "Remember, Maya," she said softly, "one small act of kindness can ripple through life in ways we cannot imagine. You gave me your seat, and it has led to this moment. Life has a way of rewarding hearts like yours. Maya smiled through her tears. She knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter. She felt a quiet determination rising inside her, a promise to continue being kind, to continue working hard, and to pay forward the generosity that had been shown to her. As she left the house that afternoon, carrying a folder with scholarship details, Maya felt lighter than she had in months. She looked at the city streets around her, the bustling crowds, and the bright sunlight, and for the first time, she truly believed that life could surprise her, reward her efforts, and open doors that she had never imagined. Sometimes, she realized, the smallest actions, the ones we think are insignificant, can change everything. And this was the beginning of Maya's story, a story shaped by kindness, hope, and the gentle ripple of unexpected opportunities. Months had passed since that life-changing morning on the bus. Maya's days were now filled with a mixture of excitement, study, and new opportunities. The scholarship had lifted a heavy weight off her shoulders. She no longer needed to juggle multiple part-time jobs or stay up late worrying about tuition fees. Instead, she could focus on her studies, her projects, and her dreams. Yet, despite all the changes, she never forgot that it had all started with a single, simple act of kindness. Each morning, as she walked to college, she remembered the crowded bus, the frail old lady, and the young man who had noticed her gesture. She had grown more confident, more hopeful, and more aware of the ways small actions could ripple through life in unexpected ways. Her own life had changed, but she also noticed subtle changes around her. People smiled more when she helped them, classmates sought her advice, and she discovered a quiet strength within herself that she had never fully recognized. One sunny afternoon, Maya visited the old lady and Ryan at their home. The garden was in full bloom, sunlight filtering through the leaves, and the air was filled with the soft scent of flowers. The old lady greeted her warmly, her eyes sparkling with pride. "Maya," she said gently, "it is wonderful to see how much you have grown. Your hard work and dedication have shone brightly." Maya smiled, feeling a sense of calm and happiness she had not experienced before. "I owe a lot to you," she said softly. "Your encouragement, Ryan's kindness, it all made a difference." Ryan chuckled, his eyes warm. "You did this yourself, Maya. We only offered a helping hand. The courage and heart were always yours. It's amazing to see how far you've come." The old lady reached out, holding Maya's hand briefly. "Remember, dear, kindness always has a way of coming back, often when you least expect it. You gave without asking, and life has returned it in ways that matter." Maya felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She realized that life was full of moments like this, small gestures, unseen acts, tiny sparks of courage that could grow into something far greater. She thought about the bus, that crowded morning, and how giving up her seat had created a chain of events she could never have imagined. Over the next few weeks, Maya found herself helping more people, not because she expected anything in return, but because it had become a natural part of who she was. She tutored classmates who struggled with their studies, carried groceries for elderly neighbors, and even organized small study groups to make learning easier for everyone. Each act, no matter how small, gave her a quiet joy and a sense of purpose. One evening, while walking home from the library, Maya passed the same busy street where the bus had stopped months ago. She saw an elderly man struggling with his shopping bags. Without a second thought, she ran to help him, lifting the heavier bag and walking alongside him until he reached his home. When he thanked her, she realized that the ripple of kindness she had experienced was now spreading outward, touching lives she might never fully know. Back at her small apartment, Maya reflected on her journey. She had faced struggles, exhaustion, and moments of doubt, but those very struggles had shaped her into a stronger, more compassionate person. The scholarship had opened doors, yes, but it was her willingness to care for others that had brought her to this point. One afternoon, Ryan visited her with a small gifted journal with a note inside. "For your thoughts, your dreams, and your plans," he said kindly. "I hope it reminds you that even the smallest actions can have the greatest effects." Maya opened the journal, reading the words carefully. She smiled through tears of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll remember this always." Ryan nodded. "And Maya, remember, this is just the beginning. Life will continue to offer surprises, opportunities, and moments of connection. Keep your heart open. Keep being you." Maya felt a quiet promise settle in her heart. She would continue her studies, work hard, and never forget the small gestures that could change lives. She would pay forward the kindness she had received, inspiring others in the same way she had been inspired. As the months turned into years, Maya's life flourished. She graduated with honors, found work she loved, and continued to help those in need. She never forgot the bus ride, the frail old lady, or the kind young man who had noticed her heart. Those moments had reminded her that life's greatest rewards often came from the simplest acts, the quiet gestures, and the decisions made with care and compassion. One evening, standing on her balcony and watching the city lights twinkle below, Maya reflected on how much her life had changed. It all started with giving up a seat on a crowded bus, a gesture so small, yet so powerful. She smiled, thinking about the old lady, Ryan, and all the people whose lives she had touched in turn. Life, Maya realized, was a series of ripples, some small, some large, but each capable of creating a lasting impact. And it was in those ripples, in the quiet moments of care, that true meaning was found. Maya closed her eyes, breathing deeply, and whispered softly to herself, "Kindness matters. And it always will." And in that simple truth, her journey continued, a story of compassion, hope, and the remarkable power of one small act.